Hello everyone, Tesaks here, and welcome to second special episode of Tesaks Devlogs. Today I will be mainly talking about my first ever game jam experience, but I might mention some other stuff when the video gets to the end. If you've watched the first special episode, then you know this is somehow special video where I just talk more about stuff that are not that much connected to my games. And if you haven't watched the first video, then you definitely should do it now. Link in the description and I will make it pop up somewhere on the screen right now as well. Anyway, today's topic is game jams, and if you don't know what a game jam is, then I will cover that quickly now. Essentially, game jam is event during which you are given a theme, topic, sometimes even genre, and your goal is to create game from scratch within a given time limit. This time limit can be as short as just few hours, but it can also run for a whole week or even longer. Now that we all know what game jam is, let's talk about my personal experience with game jams, and let's talk about N8 Jam. So just to recap this event, it was game jam organized by N8 Dev and Wannabe Manisha. Please don't murder me for mispronouncing these names, I am not the best one when it comes to pronunciation. It ran from 7th of August 2021 to August 14, 2021, and it officially started and ended at 1 PM, which makes it 7 days. The whole event was hosted on itch.io with the use of N8 Dev's Discord as platform for developers to chat, team up and ask questions and share their progress. Oh hey, editing Tesaks here. I will just quickly add now that there are stuff that happened around N8 Dev recently. I'm not gonna be mentioning or talking about these since I don't know much about the topic and it have nothing to do with the game jam as far as I understand. Okay, and now let's get back to the topic of the video. And this is important for what I will be talking next. No asset restrictions were set during this game jam, which means that everyone could use any asset they wanted. In short, you were not required to make the whole game yourself, and you could use sprites, sound effects, etc. prepared in advance or just downloaded from free sources. I, of course, didn't team up with anyone because I'm too much of an introvert. No. The real reason is that I, of course, wanted to challenge myself with some additional rules. And the rules are: number 1, creating reasonably fun to play game within set time limitation. Number 2, creating all the assets myself, including music and sounds. And this is important. Then number 3, make the game small enough so I would be able to finish everything myself, but not to make it minimalistic. And 4, document the whole process. Number 1, that's obvious. Number 3, well, I think it's obvious as well. Number 4, so I can make this video. And yeah, but let's talk about number 2 briefly. I said this specific rule because I have been creating games for years now, but I have never truly made the whole game myself with every single asset. With puzzle pieces, I used music by a drop a day and sound effects from free source. In Walker of Aldenor, I asked Dan to create music for the game, and with my previous experiments, well, I don't talk about these. So, as you can see, I have no issues drawing sprites, scripting, and I have been writing short stories my whole life. But when it comes to music and sounds, I haven't been able to do this myself. Well, I tried few times, but it always flopped. And this is where I decided to just go for it. And now that we are all on the same page, let's take a look and read through my notes from the whole week. So, the 7th of August, marking the first day of the game jam. It's like 10 minutes past 12, and I just learned that there is going to be game jam in 50 minutes. At first I was like, nah, it's too late for me to join now. Hold on, I forgot to mention one crucial thing. On August 21, I prepared a huge 4 days long reunion with my friends, for which I've been preparing for the last week or so. And preparations still weren't finished by 7th August. Not only that, but on August 16, 2 of my friends should arrive to help me with few stuff. So now that you know this, you can see why I was thinking about not participating in this game jam. But later in the day, I decided to join anyway, so I created itch.io profile and signed up. And now let's take a look at the notes. So the first challenge was to come up with what the game will be. And It was really easy for me, and I came up with the idea relatively quickly. I'm a huge fan of bullet hell kind of games, and I know that not many people will be buying or playing these kind of games. So, it's ideal, no commercial game jam project. Right after that, I prepared player sprites. I will mention that all the sprites are extremely small. I'm talking less than 16 pixels wide. And also that I based some of the ships designs or actual car designs. But I think it's pretty much obvious. Next, I prepared the whole Unity project, which means just creating new Unity project and preparing all the basics. Up next was movement, boundaries, shooting, and casings. And from all these, let's just talk about the casings. I tried to approach the bullets differently than I did in past. I wanted these bullets to be affected by physics, which is why all the bullets are sometimes glitching to this day. And one of the first things that happened was the bullet just was falling down, rotating and looking like an actual casing. And I thought, this is cool? So I left it in the game, I just changed the sprites. Right after that, we have the first proto enemy spawned at 5:43 PM. Quite a quick dev cycle, considering that I started like 5 hours ago, if you ask me. After that, engine flares and basic animations, ability to destroy enemies, adding score to the game, and ramming. Actually, the ramming is something not many games of this genre have. As I said, I like scroller shooters and bullet hell kind of games. And in a majority of these games, player is the one who gets damaged or destroyed on a collision with enemies. So I wanted to make it more interesting. After all, the player is supposed to be the one with the best ship out there. Combat implemented. Well, I am not exactly sure what I meant by this, but I suppose that I made the enemy spawn, fly and shoot at the player at this point. Right after that, I implemented menu, which, well, it's kinda obvious. And at the same point, I made story comics. And yeah, actually, I learned a thing or two while drawing the comics, and it was fun. I'm considering implementing this idea into more games in the future. And yeah, I also added some UI stuff, which is self-explanatory as well. And by the end of the day 1, the whole gameplay loop is done. And we have the first PC build at 11:47 PM. This means that all you can do in the final game was already done by the end of day 1, and the game is fully functional outside of Unity on any PC. First time that I finished working prototype that quickly, honestly. Okay, second day. This is the day I had to travel a little bit, so most of the day got killed by that. But I still managed to implement some background objects and draw a few sprites for enemies and projectiles. By the way, at this time I was still thinking that I will make the game level based, with more than 50 enemies, more upgrades and, of course, more story. That changed, of course. On third day, I prepared all stats for enemies for smoother difficulty curve and made enemies spawn based on score rather than on actual level. At this point, I decided to change from level based to score based difficulty because I realized I didn't have enough time to do that. Right after that, the intercom with all the story text got added. Also, by the time I realized that the ship looks too static, so I created 2 more sprites to simulate tilt. Also, bigger nebulae were added and color of the background was changed to be score dependent now. With the tilt came one nasty bug that made me waste more time than I am willing to admit. This bug caused engine flares to disappear, and it took me more than 1 hour to fix this issue. It was the first time consuming bug for this project. But with the taken care of, I proceeded to add bosses, and I quickly realized that all you had to do to beat each boss was to ram it, so I quickly changed that. Around that time I experimented with more enemies on the screen at once, and the physics got confused, so I fixed that as well as improving the design with enemy flares, because this makes everything look better, and some explosions with shrapnels and smoke particles. And after that I made all these effects HP related, to make sure a player approximately knows how much HP each enemy has left. This caused bug where player's mouse got stuck on the center of the screen for some reason. That reason was that I forgot to center it on the player, but rather I centered it on the canvas, which got fixed quickly once I realized my mistake and made it child of the prefab instead. And that was it for the third day of the game jam. So I went to bed feeling like I could have done more, only if it wasn't for that bug. The next day, 4th day, I woke up and started my day by improving bosses, tweaking some colors, and I made the enemies to get darker when destroyed. Originally, I wanted to make a whole new texture for that, but I realized quickly that I am running out of time, so that got scrapped quickly. With that, I took everything from the enemies and copied it to the player, only turning off the physics when destroyed so it stays on the screen. Also, at this point, I made the screen shake with explosions, and I reworked the menu completely with upgrades, stats, save and load function, credits, and game over screen with score and money. I quickly realized that easy way to farm money would be just getting yourself destroyed and then destroying enemies with the wreck. So I quickly ate that with some minor tweaks. At this point, I was more than happy, so I coded the endless version of the game from story game. And I added a bunch of UI stuff and improved on everything that couldn't break anything. And with this done, it was story time. I added special scene for start and end comics and related text, and with that I finished the story. This means that at this point we had some bugs left to take care of, but the whole game was literally finished. And it was only 4 days. What a success! Next 2 days got merged together, because I forgot to save the notes before I turned off my PC, and hence I wrote it all at the end of 6th day. So, during these 2 days I created and added music, and I am a little bit surprised that I just wrote it like this, because I spent probably about 12 hours learning how to make music on my own. In the end, I used some sound samples and mixed them together. I mean, it's not the best music in the world, but it's the first ever music that I made, so I still consider that a huge achievement. And as you can see, I got frustrated with sound effects. First, I tried to make some myself. Well, my mic is quite awful and my phone mic isn't any better. So I literally googled around for some free sounds, couldn't find any, so I took some royalty-free shooting sounds, distorted these to make the sound of machine gun and laser shots. Then I took royalty-free sound of thunder and distorted and edited these so they sounded like explosions, and used them accordingly. And by the way, the sound the game makes when your magazine is empty, that's slightly edited sound of typewriter. Anyway, this probably took part during 5th day, because otherwise I have no idea how I could finish all this. And then during 6th day I balanced the whole game as best as I could. Spoiler alert, it wasn't enough. I fixed literally a ton of bugs, as you can see, and I finally added the endless mode, that I created quite a while ago. Thanks to a bug, it wasn't working properly, so I had to rework some stuff. After that, bunch of tweaks and stuff, and because I had some spare time, I decided to add star in the background and make it move. It's not completely finished to this day, it's supposed to start off screen and make its way through the screen from right to left. It's also supposed to be in front of all the background objects, but hey, better than nothing I guess. And when the day came to an end, I tweaked all the limits for the upgrades. And for me, the last day was 13th of August. Reason for that was that I was getting really tight on time. I still had tons of work to do and prepare. I was completely ignoring every other game and my company the whole time. And on top of that, I had to travel the next day again. So, I finished it up with just few bug fixes. I started first with fixing intercom, then proceeded to fix bug that literally made player kill himself. Well, I forgot to turn off our friendly fire. I rebalanced all enemies, still not balanced enough. And around 9:56 AM, I finished the game for the first time legitimately, without developer cheating, and in a standalone build on my PC. Right after that, I finished some projectiles movement and some nice to have stuff. And right after that, I created each IO page for the game and for my company, and I submitted it to the gamejam. What I didn't mention during the whole time is that for a brief moment I considered making this game mobile friendly with Android in mind. And I made one working Android version. It sucks, so I scrapped the idea, at least for now. We will see. And with that, I didn't even place it in top 50, which made me a little bit upset, but hey! I got quite a lot of useful feedback that allowed me to consider stuff I couldn't before. On top of that, I learned quite a lot of stuff about sound and music design, I improved my coding skills, and I learned a thing or two about minimalistic drawing and comics drawing, which wouldn't happen otherwise. So, that's my experience with game jams so far. And what about you? Do you have any game jam experience? Feel free to share it in comments below. Oh yeah, one last thing. I've been playing Smash the System on the background, but beside that, I've been playing a little bit of MKlon. It's not a game that I made, but I made all the graphics for it. It's a side project on which I tried cooperating with other game developer, and it's a fun project for a game called Transformize. Online game I played years ago, and the other developer is playing it as well. I talked about MKlon more in 28th devlog episode, so feel free to check it here. I will make it pop on the screen. Alternatively, link is in the description. Oh wow! Are you still watching? You are absolute legend then. But I think it's time to end this video. It's quite long anyway, but that's okay. That's what these specials are for. So thank you a lot for watching, and I will catch you next time. See ya!